Hello, 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 friends. Welcome to a new episode of Problematic FMC. This week, I am chatting about some booktokers who are complaining about, quote, anti-intellectual reviews. They say that too many readers rely on tropes to describe books, which oversimplifies the plot and crowds out literary analysis. I have some thoughts about this. But before I jump into the episode topic, I'd like to share some books I've read recently. First up, Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This is book 2 in the Part of Your World trilogy, and you can read these in any order, but there are characters from the previous books that show back up, so you would find out who ends up with who. In Yours Truly, Brianna is almost divorced, living in her childhood bedroom, and desperately seeking a cure for her younger brother's kidney failure. Her one silver lining is an upcoming promotion, until that gets derailed by a new hotshot doctor who starts on her shift, creating competition for her dream job. This guy is a grade A jerk. But when he apologizes to Brianna for a series of bad run-ins with a surprisingly lovely letter, they form a correspondence that might just be the answer to all of her problems. This book really hit a chord for me. It has realistic and sometimes painful representation of anxiety and chronic illness. I strongly recommend taking the time to read Abby's author's note at the back. I love finding the personal connection that a writer has to the topic, and in this case, it made the characters' struggles very authentic to me. Readers who do not like the miscommunication as a plot device may find some of the couple's obstacles irritating, but I thought everything was justified with realistic insecurities on both sides. Overall, this was not my favorite from Abby Jimenez, but it was very much worth the read. It's 417 pages, published in 2023. That was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Next, Furyborn, which is book 1 in the Imperium trilogy by Claire Legrand. Two women, 1,000 years apart, find their fates entwined. One, a queen, with a dark connection to the evil invading their lands. The other, a bounty hunter, with many secrets worth killing for. The pacing in this book was so well crafted, keeping me interested throughout. I genuinely enjoyed both POVs, and I loved seeing female characters struggling with darkness. These were not Mary Sue characters that are too often slapped into YA romantasy. They both struggled and sometimes made morally gray decisions. Neither of them needed a man to save them, but both had weaknesses that drove them to lean on their friends. The magic system was fairly straightforward. Fans of Throat of Glass will love Eliana's role as a bounty hunter who despises her king. All in all, this book stood out from lots of the romantasy I've read recently, and I'm already looking forward to the next book in the series, Kingsbane. This first book is 501 pages, published in 2018. That was Furyborn by Claire Legrand. I also recently read Other People's Houses by Abby Waxman. As the driver of the neighborhood carpool, Frances has become enmeshed in her neighbors' lives, caring for their children through their daily troubles and witnessing their family's highs and lows, including walking in on a scandalous affair that sends the neighborhood into a tailspin. Fans of Leanne Moriarty's domestic dark humor and Claire Lombardo's literary depictions of dysfunctional families will enjoy this story. Waxman's writing style makes me laugh while also nodding along with her poignant observations about daily life and relationships. In the middle third of this book, I spent some time wondering where we were headed or what was the central question the story set out to solve. But it all comes together nicely in a way I felt fit the characters well. This is my second book I've picked up from this author, and I definitely intend to read more from her. It is 352 pages, published in 2018. Again, that is Other People's Houses by Abby Waxman. The last book I have to share this week is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. Macy Sorensen has her life sorted out. Her job is great, if exhausting. Her fiancé is dependable, if a little dry. and her life is orderly, if a little tepid. But when she runs into Elliot Petropoulos, the boy next door of the lake house she visited during her teenage summers, and her first love, she has to decide if facing the pain that drove her away from him is worth the spark that only he can give her. This was a cute coming-of-age story. Personally, I think I prefer Christina Lauren's rom-com titles that have a bit of a lighter tone. This one felt much more heavy and angsty. This is a great bookish book, as the main characters bond over their love of reading, and that's always super fun. This one is 432 pages, but it has pretty quick chapters, spanning only 8 hours on audio, and it is published in 2018. Again, that is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. Now that I have very unintellectually told you about my recent reads, let's do a deep dive into BookTok's anti-intellectual discourse. People are arguing on BookTok again, this time about anti-intellectualism, or the perceived lack of literary criticism by quote-unquote trope reviewers. The complaint was popularized by Celine, a BookTok creator who made her case in front of stacks of books ranging everywhere from YA romantasy titles like Ignite Me and The Cruel Prince to more literary works like Life of Pi and Oryx and Crake. Celine said, "Creators who put out content that the algorithm preferred rather than content that the viewers preferred get put on a certain literary BookTok pedestal. And that encouraged them to create more shallow, sensationalized content of books, which far overshadowed the content that made BookTok what it is." She gave an example of two creators who reviewed The Poppy War differently, one exploring the complex themes, and one only mentioning that it has a, quote, strong female character. Celine complained that, quote, "When you stand up and you discuss the issues, that we shouldn't reduce an entire book about war and mythology and trauma and the dark sides of war and all of the complex relationships and character developments that happen to a strong female character. This is wrong. They just call you a pretentious reader who won't let people read what they want," end quote. Because I'm a TikTok native, I hustled to the comments. Sure, I was about to read scathing criticisms of Celine's video. But instead, the vast majority of comments voiced agreement. Here's a few. Cass said, "I switched over to literature talk for this reason." Vic said, "Yes, and I also feel like the reading level is getting lower too. I feel like I'm reading books made for middle schoolers." And Ambia said, "I agree. I feel like books are becoming like fast fashion. Majority of books I've read which have been hyped up on TikTok have been very poor, especially in world building and dialogue." I was aghast. Pretentious does not even begin to capture my view of this frame of mind. And there are people out there who share my view, but I've found them discouragingly few and far between. Nicole McAn, a fantasy author and another online commentator, responded to the conversation with her own TikTok video where she said, open quote, "If your primary reason for critiquing a bookish community is that they are not engaging with literature in a way that you deem worthy or proper, I need you to pause for a second. There is no right way to engage with literature or to recommend it," end quote. She goes on to explain that reading for entertainment is not only a valid reason for picking up a book, but that entertainment is the foundation upon which everything else in fiction is built. Empathy of different types of people, critiques of societal systems and relationships, and explorations of themes would all be moot, she says, if the reader lost interest. She continues, open quote, "I can understand how it is frustrating to see other people enjoying the surface of the pool that you've been swimming very deeply in, and recommending it based on the color and not based on the incredible architecture. I can understand that, absolutely. But I should not be criticizing them for it because they are getting more people into the pool," end quote. Yes, 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 I love all of that. However, she ends the video by saying, open quote, And as those people learn to love to swim, eventually they are going to risk swimming deeper, and eventually they are going to be exposed to more of the pool, and not just the shallow end. And pretty soon, they are going to be engaging with thoughts and ideas that they may never have been exposed to before. And those little steps of doggy paddling, and then swimming the breaststroke and diving deeper, all of those things that began with a trope recommendation, and that is okay. Everybody is at a different place in their reading journey, and denigrating somebody because they are not already at the deep end where you're at is unfair. Dang it, Nicole, you were so close. Reading is not meant to be a journey with an endpoint, or even a line we are meant to progress along. While reading absolutely lends itself to personal progress, it does not require it. Are reading and literary analysis skills? Yes. Are they worthy and rewarding skills? Absolutely. But picking up a book does not come with a contract to grow intellectually or morally. I come to books to be entertained. It's really that simple. To continue Nicole's pool metaphor, I literally jumped in to cool off, to have a good romp. It does not help matters that I DNF'd The Poppy War, the book from Celine's example, at about the 30% mark because I was bored. She would likely say that the complex images of the suffering human spirit went right over my head, and she would be exactly right. I don't like war books. How's that for a gross oversimplification? A big part of the reason why I have such a low tolerance for books that do not hold my attention is that I work a full-time job. Get this. In education. That means I am heckin' using my brain from 8 to 5. And that means when I sit down at the end of the workday, I merely want to turn my brain off and have some fun. Sure, sometimes that sends me into a tailspin of deep thoughts about a metaphor or celebrating an author's genius and how they crafted a section of prose. I cannot count the number of times I've been brought to tears because a book tossed me into the sufferings of a person so unlike anyone I've ever met, causing me to reflect on how universal the human experience is. But many times it's smut. Many times it is trash I'm going to forget the moment I close the book. And who is to say that one type of experience is more valuable or more aligned to some ideal readerly behavior? Only me, the reader, who picked up that book to fulfill the type of reading experience I wanted in that moment. You would never find such a large proportion of the TV show watching community having this conversation. What if someone insisted that you had no business recommending the show Friends unless you extol the underlying theme of new adults placing their identity in a small community juxtaposed against the crowded metropolitan NYC backdrop? This is actually beautiful to think about, but that's besides the point. If someone tried to make you feel less than for not including that level of analysis in your recommendation of a sitcom, you would think that person is weird. You would say that you watch just because Chandler is funny. You would press the call button and ask the flight attendant to let you move seats because there's no way you're about to spend hours stuck next to that guy. Why would books be any different? Reading just to pass the time is enough. Books do not have to require anything more from you. Now, does holding this view mean that I am not also concerned about the decline of literacy across the world? Or that I'm not also annoyed by the same 10 to 15 books with objectively childish writing getting recommended over and over again? Or that I'm not also rolling my eyes at people who self-righteously announce they DNF'd a book because the main character was problematic? Hello, look at my show's name. Unlikable leading ladies is literally my shtick, and people who have no tolerance for nuance are probably not going to like my takes. Yes, all of those things do bother me. But unless you are literally in school, if how you recommend books bothers me, or bothers Celine, or bothers Juice Cleanse Janine from book club, or bothers any other person, that should have absolutely zero bearing over whether or not those creators continue to make that type of content, or whether their audience takes their suggestions. I will happily admit that there are many people who are miles and away more intellectual than me. There are highbrow literary lovers who would look at my piles of smut and my preference for audiobooks and ebooks, and who would turn their nose up, calling me not a real reader. And those people can suck my Kindle clicker, because their opinion is not a factor in how I talk about my books. There's a really simple answer here. If you don't like how someone recommends books, don't follow them. Beneath all of Celine's pretensions, there is also a fundamental misunderstanding of social media's role in tailoring experiences for its users. The reality is that BookTok is not a singular community, but actually a hub of overlapping smaller communities. Every creator has their own reading preferences and their own style of sharing their thoughts, and creators who find consistent growth have learned to lean into what makes them unique. Regardless of the topic, people follow a creator online because A, they are attracted to that creator's unique voice, and B, they can trust that creator to repeatedly deliver that voice across posts. It's all about niche. Users will seek out creators who not only discuss books that sound interesting to them, but who discuss them in a way that resonates with them. Celine claimed that creators who put out content that the algorithm preferred rather than content that the viewers preferred get put on a certain literary book talk pedestal. Are those two different things? I wholeheartedly disagree. TikTok has grown into one of the most successful social media sites, catching the eyes of over 1 billion active users each month. Its algorithm does this by maximizing users' exposure to content they engage with to keep them on the app. Notice that I said engage, not enjoy or agree with. TikTok wins when we spend time interacting with posts, regardless if that interaction is rewatching a video we love, following step-by-step instructions we found useful, or writing a rebuttal on an argument we disagree with, or pausing and playing and talking ahead to transcribe their words for this podcast. I have been pushed a lot of Celine's videos for this exact reason, and based on her explanation of debating creators that she finds quote-unquote anti-intellectual, I would guess that Celine sees those types of videos so frequently that she has come to believe that they make up a bigger proportion of book talk than they really do. Because her engagement keeps her on the app, so the algorithm purposefully floods her feed with videos that contain certain keywords. More than likely, those keywords are tropes. The value of book talk is not just the books discussed, but the public forum about the reading life. For some, the hobby of sharing their thoughts on books with an online audience also includes critiquing other creators. It's also worth noting that TikTok favors short-form videos, and its users generally open the app expecting bite-sized entertainment. It's no surprise, then, that book reviewers that use basic descriptions such as tropes would outperform lengthier videos that dive into the nitty-gritty. On YouTube, or say, a podcast, where longer-form exposition is the norm, users have a higher tolerance. The exact same person may prefer the literary analysis style of review on YouTube, but only want bullet points and snappy hooks when they open TikTok. Another creator at Sunny Banani Books shared her thoughts. She said, quote, "Just because there is not as much intellectual discussion happening on books on TikTok, it doesn't mean that those readers are not capable of having those discussions. I think it just means that this is not the right app for it, or it's not the right community for it. The 10-minute feature on TikTok is relatively new, and people are not looking for long-form content." To wrap up, read what you want to read. Think about books as deeply or shallowly as you desire at that time, because your reading life is there to serve you. Watch videos that make you want to read more, or watch videos of corgis playing fetch. The way you spend your leisure time is only wrong if you would prefer to be doing something different. Now for this week's Would You Rather question. Would you rather have to run every book you pick up to read by your high school English teacher for approval, or by the first BookToker that pops up when you scroll on your For You page? I'm going to say BookToker, and if your answer is English teacher, then you either had a really cool English teacher, or you were on the wrong side of TikTok, my friend. You need to find a new sub-community who shares your tastes, because there are so many smaller nooks and crannies on the app and niche creators who share an interest you may have thought was only just your own little quirk. That is all for this week. Head on over to my Instagram, @problematicfmc, and let me know what you think about anti-intellectualism. Are tropes oversimplifying literature? Should reviewers be held to a higher standard? Or are you just here for a good old time? Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, keep flipping those pages. Bye!